Hi all, it's Doug again. I hope you've been enjoying the wildflowers that we've been showing. I think I saved the best for last. This is our trip down to Lake Elsinore. I don't know if you heard about it. The wildflower show it made there during early 2019 was pretty incredible. So we'll head there. Before we go, I talked about why I picked this spot here in front of my friend, the blue hibiscus. I hope you can kind of see the beautiful color on this particular one I chose for my garden, for my backyard. But I want to tell you something else about it. I actually kind of wish I'd shown you this video about 3 days ago, because 3 days ago there was one flower on this. There was only one. Now it's got about, I want to say dozen really that have already bloomed, and it's going to have quite a bit more. But 3 days ago there was only one. And a week ago, this plant looked like it was about ready to drop. It looked like it was going to die, because it does that every winter. It gets really, really sick looking. And the first winter I had it, I said I'm going to lose my blue hibiscus. It's just straight going to die. It couldn't take it. It does not like the cold weather. It doesn't like all the rain, all the water, all that stuff. And it just about dropped dead. And you say, well, why are you telling us about that, Doug? Well, the reason I am is because, in a way, we kind of all feel like that right now. We've been going through a real tough time. And we're all beat up. We don't get to go out. We don't get to go have fun. We're scared. All those things. And I kind of wanted us to look at this guy right here, because right now it's been through the ringer itself. It doesn't like that wet weather, and yet here it is. In a couple weeks, this guy's going to be massive purple. It's going to be this beautiful thing blooming in the spring, and it's going to remind us of how we're going to come through this too. So I want you to take this and think about the blue hibiscus and how we're all going to be okay too. You can hear the birds singing in the background. So let's enjoy our last spot. We'll head to Walker Canyon in Lake Elsinore. Well, if you're going to go to Walker Canyon, right near Lake Elsinore, you better start early if you're going on the wildflower weekend of the decade, maybe of my lifetime. And we left LA in the middle of the night. Got down there, it was already a madhouse. You can see, not even close to sunrise yet. Got there, got off the freeway, and the police were directing traffic. And I remember they said, turn right, go down this street, and don't step on the flowers. And went on this little frontage road, and you can see it's already packed. So where is it? I'm using that old map I had, the one that was showing where Hemet was and Diamond Valley Lake. Well, right to the left, due west of that, is Lake Elsinore. That's where we're heading down, right down to 15. And we get out and start on our little walk. You can see the flowers all over the place. We're going to head up that trail. It's actually a fire road. We're going to head past that tower in the distance, and then we're going to not go left up the canyon. We're only going to go a little ways up that canyon, because you hit private property. You're not allowed to pass there. So instead, we're going to double back on the right along the ridge line and head that direction. A lot of flowers here. That's why it was the place to be during the flower show. You have the oranges and the purples and the yellows and the green grasses. And there's a better look of where we're heading. So you can see the trail splits up there. You can go either direction you want. And we're going to go, let's go to the left. And we'll start heading to the left. And you start running into the flowers. There's our friend, the California poppy. And in the middle of it is the one called the chia. We'll talk about the chia a little bit more a little later. And we go along the road. We've turned a little bit to the left now, and you can look up into the distance. We are not going to get to go to that ridge. That ridge is on that private property I talked to you about. But I like to show it anyway because it's orange. Here in the morning, that entire peak is orange with California poppies. We're going to see plenty of poppies ourselves, so we're not going to feel like we were gypped not getting to go up there. But I wanted to show it to you to give you an idea that as wonderful as this area we are in, it's more than that. The flowers keep going beyond where we're going to go. Here's a bunch of flowers here, and right in the middle is our friend. Do you guys remember who this is? This is a cholla. This is not a teddy bear cholla who we saw before, a different kind of cholla right in the midst, but it does remind us of something. It reminds us of our rule. We are going to stay on the trail. We're not going to go walking through the flowers for two reasons. One is for the respect of where we are, of the nature. We're going to not do anything to hurt it. Remember the old rule, leave no trace. And leaving no trace doesn't just mean just not throwing trash out there. It means leave no trace. Don't leave footprints on top of flowers that are mashed by you. The other reason we won't want to go up there is because that cholla has some pretty nice needles on it, and you're not going to go off the trail for your own sake. Like we talked about, I'm a sucker for dead trees. So I had to take a picture of this dead tree. There's our orange hill in the distance, and we start to look back the other way. We're looking back at the ridge on our next picture. We look back. I see a bunch of beautiful flowers in the foreground. But what I'm really kind of noticing, kind of distracting me, I see little specks on top of that ridge up there. It's people. That whole ridge is full of people. You know what? It's not sunrise yet. This is pre-dawn light. And this is how many people have already showed up here. This is just the beginning of the crowd that's going to hit Walker Canyon on this weekend. Okay, here comes the sun. The sun is finally coming out. And so are the flowers. Those purple ones there, as well as the white ones, are a neat kind of flower that I became familiar with on this trip. And I wonder if anybody knows what these flowers are called, these purple guys. Well, the best way to look at it is if you look at the one on top. There's a group of 5 right there. And the one on top, if you turn it upside down, face it the other way, and it looks kind of like a bell. You can see how it might look like a bell the other way. And these are called Canterbury bells. And Canterbury bells come in purple, and they come in white, and they come in kind of a blue color too. I think the blue goes really well with the orange. Well, here we are way up on Walker Canyon, and you look down, and down there in the valley way far below, you can kind of see a little bit of what looks like a town down there, and that's Lake Elsinore down there. You know, what was amazing about Lake Elsinore is when this hill, this area, Walker Canyon, when it became obvious that there was going to be a flower show for the ages, people of Lake Elsinore were ecstatic. You're going to have all these tourists come in, and you're going to have people from everywhere. They're going to come in. They're going to buy gasoline. They're going to buy t-shirts. They're going to buy hamburgers. They're going to buy everything. They're going to make a fortune. Well, it wasn't too long before Lake Elsinore hated the flower show, and the reason was more people came than they could handle. You saw that little road I was on? That was just a tiny amount of people of the amount of people that showed up there. Within minutes, that road, that frontage road on the east side of the freeway was filled. So where did people want to go? They went over to the other side into Lake Elsinore. They started parking all over Lake Elsinore. Moms were calling City Hall saying, I can't get out of my driveway to take my daughter to soccer practice on Saturday because the streets are so full of people coming here. Their estimate was the weekend that I went there, the big weekend, that there were somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people showed up at this canyon. And I like to take the high end. You think of 100,000 people and think of the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. You look at that giant stadium. That's how many people came out here to look at the flowers. So as soon as the flower show ended, Lake Elsinore could not be happy enough. There's our friend the lupin, right in the midst of all our poppies. And one of the things I thought was really interesting was how the different colors of our California poppy. There are ones there that look completely orange, and there's one there that look completely gold. And now we're starting to get the first rays of sun. and a bunch of our Canterbury bells, a whole bunch of those purple guys, and purple mixed with orange. One more look at Canterbury bells. And here's a close-up of one. Hey, wait a second. That's not a Canterbury bell. That is the one I promised I'd talk to you about. That's a chia right there. And if you look at the chia real closely, I thought it was kind of neat because the chia actually looks like a bigger flower comprised of a whole bunch of little tiny flowers that you can see right there. That chia, the one I got the picture of right there, has lost a lot of the little tiny flowers. One of the things I like to tell people is I like to go and say, don't forget to enjoy the little things. And I want to take a picture of this little geranium, this little tiny guy about the size of your thumbnail right there that everybody was ignoring. There are tons of people, more and more people are showing up as the morning goes along. And this little tiny guy, just as pretty as all the others, just not as noticeable. But then guess who shows up? All the dogs. I think every dog in San Diego County and Orange County and Riverside County, I think every single one of them showed up on the trail that day. I've never seen so many dogs in all my life. And now all the poppies start to open up and it became a world of orange here. You know, it's funny, you guys from that have been to some of my previous shows might go and say, you know, I often talk to you, I say, no matter how hard I try on every one of my adventures, I botch one picture that I find out I botched, but I find out I botched it when I get home. And I came here to this and I said, you know, a nice panorama of the whole area I think would be really good. So I did a panorama there. And I actually, the trick was that the sun was directly behind me for this picture. So I actually got down on my belly on the dirt to take this picture so my shadow wouldn't go into it too much. See what I do for you guys? I'm lying down in the dirt to take this picture. Took the panorama, get up, get home, and guess what I noticed? I left my pack on the right side of the picture. So there I've got my pack on the right side of the picture. I never even noticed it while I was doing it, so I botched that picture. Luckily, I had one other panorama I took, and I think this one came out pretty nice. So this is a panorama of Walker Canyon. All the orange. But there were other colors too. There's that kind of purple one right there. And you can see that orange just keeps going and going and going on the hills. I like that. It depends also what angle is the sun on. So as you look at the sun, different angle, you get a lot of different orange there. And depending on the angle of the sun, depending on the angle of the slope, depending which way it's facing, you get some slopes that are just awash in orange and other slopes not as much. One of the things that I like to talk about is what makes this the year that all the flowers came out. Why not another year? Well, we have other years that have as much rain. And one of the reasons that it is, and one of the more important reasons that I never knew about, was you need a drought. You just don't need a lot of rain. You need a drought before the rain, and we had those years of drought. Well, you say, well, what difference does it make if there was a drought? Well, the drought actually does something really good for the wildflowers. And that is, every year the wildflower seeds are competing against somebody else. And who they're competing against are the weeds. See all the weeds on the right? That's who they're competing with. Unfortunately, the weeds usually win. So if you have a rainy year after a rainy year after a rainy year, yep, those wildflower seeds want to come up again. But guess who's going to win? The grasses, the weeds are going to choke them all out. You're not going to have the wildflower show that we got this year. But after a drought, guess who lives the longest during a drought? Wildflower seeds. They beat out the weed seeds. So the weed seeds die during the drought. The wildflower seeds stay alive, get the rain, and the wildflower seeds get to go and give us their great show. All right, there's a few guys starting to open up in the sun. And then there's a look down at Lake Elsinore. Now, all these pretty flowers we have here, I can see some of our bells right there and our poppies and other guys. But I noticed somebody on the right, that pretty flower to the right. That is, anybody want to guess? That is black mustard. And black mustard it's a nice flower. I don't have anything against it, but it is not a well-loved flower. And the reason it's not a well-loved flower is because it is not native to the area. And because it's not native, it again seems to propagate like you wouldn't believe. And if you were to go out on many of the hillsides around here in Southern California, you would see nothing but black mustard. And why is it? What's the big deal? Okay, you got yellow flowers instead of other kinds, or instead of grass. Well, the reason is during the summer, this flower, mustard, dries out to a tinder. And you have these hillsides that are completely covered with this bone dry mustard. Spark gets going, the whole hillside goes up. And that is one of the reasons that the Ventura fire was so devastating a couple years ago, was because of mustard. Those hills were covered with mustard. One fire got started, boom, the whole hillside went up. A spark blows over to the next hillside, boom, it goes up, and you have a terrible wildfire. So, mustard's not a well-loved flower. Of course, this guy is. This is, a lot of people go and say, oh, look at the monarch butterfly that's taking a rest on the chia. That is not a monarch. That is called a painted lady. And you might remember, it happened a little bit this year, but not like last year, that you may have gone outside in February and noticed all these butterflies flying around, and they were migrating. They were all painted ladies migrating, and this particular painted lady decided to take a break here on a chia. There's our look. Is that great orange as the day's coming along? All those flowers starting to open up. Well, now we're looking out here, and the people start to show up. You can see them down on that trail we were at before when we went down there and had to double back. You can see all the people starting to come. And again, we're not anywhere near the height of the amount of people that showed up, because it wasn't too long before they were all over everywhere. Now, most of the people were very, very courteous and respectful of where they were. But as you may have read, there were a lot of people, a significant number of people that just did not respect where they were. And they went out and they trampled the flowers. And you can see some of even in this picture, you can see some people walking out in the flowers. They just didn't care. At the beginning, I would yell at them and say, hey, get out of the flowers. And guess what they would do? They would go and they'd say something bad back to me or give me the finger or something like that. But one of the interesting things that happened during this flower show that lasted a couple weekends down there is they had a tremendous number of people that ended up where? They ended up in the hospital. And the reason they ended up in the hospital is they went off the trail and went into the went out into the flowers. And guess who they met out there when they were trampling around the flowers? They met up with our friend the rattlesnake. And the rattlesnake said, hey, buddy, if you're going to give my friend Doug the finger, I'll give you something too. And there were a lot of rattlesnake bites for people that had gone off the trail, ending up in the hospital. Back to my spot, there is that cholla we talked about before. It looked kind of spectacular there against the orange flowers. And then the wave of people hit. There were so many people. That actually, again, is still not max. There were points where you could barely make it down the hill. I'm actually going the other direction. Those people are going up the canyon. I'm out trying to get back to the car, because at this point it became completely pointless to try and take any more pictures of the flowers at this point, because there was just a wall of people. You couldn't do anything without having a wall of people in front of you. There we go. How's that look? Do you remember when we got out of the car? We got out of the car here, and I took a picture from almost this same angle, and I wanted to show you what it looked like this morning. Do you remember in the morning when we came out and we said, wow, look at all the pretty orange and all the pretty yellow and all that? This is what it looked like. That was our morning picture when we said, wow, look at all the orange and all the yellow. And once the sun actually came out, far, far more spectacular. Of course, as I was going along, I looked up in the sky. Anybody see anything up there? I see it in the upper right in the blue. And you know who that was? That was our friend, the red-tailed hawk. Certain angles, the red-tailed hawk, if you get certain angles of him, his tail will actually look kind of an orangish color with the light shining through it. That's how he got his name. And I always like this picture because it was a reward. I always like to joke with people when I'm at a live show saying, hey, you should applaud for me for getting a picture of the red-tailed hawk, because I was running around shooting my camera at the sky while everybody else was shooting at the flowers, trying to get a picture of that red-tailed hawk. And I have to tell you, I have about 20 pictures at home of nothing but blue sky. But I finally got him. So that's our red-tailed hawk. So when I got off of the trail, we got back to the car, the parking, the traffic, it was a madhouse. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. Got into my car, came back, wanted to get on the freeway, heading south at that time. That's where I wanted to go. Even though home is to the north, I wanted to go south. But the police officer, not trying to be a bad guy at all, just trying to get traffic, trying to get cars out of there, said, you have to get on the freeway going north, which is exactly the opposite direction of where I wanted to go. And because we're down in the middle of nowhere, it's about, if I remember right, about 4 miles before you even make it to the next potential off-ramp to turn around and go the direction you wanted to go. So I had to go about 4 miles, turn around, and start heading south. And I wanted to show you the picture because now, because we've had to go the direction we didn't want to, we actually have to go back through the Lake Elsinore, Lake Walker area with the exit right there. I wanted to show you what it was like on that day. And you may look at the freeway and say it's not that big a deal, but look at my rearview mirror and look at the line of cars in the midday that are still trying to get to Walker Canyon. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. So, wanted to thank you very much for coming. I wanted to finish with my favorite picture I took of Lake Elsinore Walker Canyon while I was there. And we get the color, which was absolutely stunning here at Walker Canyon. So, thank you all very, very much for coming. I hope you liked all the color, and I'm looking forward to our next show. Thanks again.